Hope everyone's enjoying their Thursday. Today's Thursday, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, chat. But really excited to be welcoming you to another Ideas in Motion virtual roundtable. This one specifically is for our young professionals. I'll be your facilitator. My name is Tom Giles. I am currently a coordinator of competitive sports at Florida International University on a very cloudy day in Miami. So we get to spend the next hour together. We got a lot of really good content to get through. We had a lot of awesome feedback from our young professionals. So most of us have been on a lot of these Zoom calls before. So just kind of doing some housekeeping. This session is being recorded. It's going to be posted on NIRSA. Both the video and the chat function will be posted. So all content that is being recorded is going to be able to be used not just by us who are currently enjoying it, but anybody that wants to revisit it and take advantage of the resources and expertise that's in the room. All of you are muted upon entrance, but you're able to unmute yourself if you want to join into the discussion. Just please make sure that once you have finished your thought or your comment to to remute yourself, just so that we can make sure that there's not too much noise going around. Most of you are familiar with the chat function. I see a lot of chat features already happening. I really encourage people to not only use the public chat, but the private chat as well, just to kind of follow up on individual questions, but dropping links in there as well, because they will be posted to the NIRSA website as well. But kind of just a friendly reminder, when you're speaking or typing, just make sure you include your institution. That kind of just aids in people knowing where they're coming from, so that if they want to follow up for additional information, or after the session's over, they want to kind of dive deeper into a topic that you might have touched on, it just makes it a little bit easier from that perspective. This is not a webinar. I'm not going to talk for an hour, but it is an opportunity for all of us to have a conversation. So hopefully the conversation kind of flows. It's not scripted. It's where it's going to go, wherever this roundtable wants it to go. So the power of the roundtable is kind of going to guide our discussion. So with that, for it to be successful, we just need to make sure that we're always respecting everyone's opinions and concerns. We're from all across the United States and Canada, and we're all dealing with this in different ways, and each area has unique circumstances. So please just make sure that we're taking that into consideration and trying to be as generous as possible to other people's interpretations and opinions. This is a no judgment space, so there's no such thing as a bad idea in here. We want to take everything and grow from it. So with that, usually if we had an actual roundtable, we do some kind of like physical icebreaker, just introduce itself. But I want to take advantage for like the next minute or so. If you have not already done so, go ahead and type in the chat your name, your institution, your title, how long you've been in the field, kind of just as a virtual meet and greet. This is challenge by choice. So if you don't want to do this, I will not force you. But also there's a bonus question for that TV or movie show, just to kind of get a little bit familiar with everyone and to help me refill my Netflix queue. So I'll give you all about a minute to do that. Eric, I see that comment. Thank you. I appreciate that. A lot of good movie and TV shows being submitted. Ooh, Ozarks. Good. I kind of want to wait for like the entire season to be done before I hop on that. Cool. Right? Watching The Office again. Okay. Feel like that. I don't know if I can do it for a 30th time, but if this lasts long enough, I might have to. All right, awesome. So we're gonna push on ahead, but feel free to continue to hit up the chat. If someone shares a TV show or something else that you found interesting, feel free to dive deeper with the private chat function. But we're going to go into the topics that we kind of got. I got a lot of feedback via email and through NIRSA Connect on topics that we could discuss today. So really appreciative of people being really energized and excited for this topic. But most of the themes kind of fell into one of these three broader baskets of discussion. Most of them fell into this idea of this work-life balance dynamic, especially both before and after COVID-19 impacted it. And the second kind of area for our discussion today is GA and student staff oversight during this working from home / remote life. Also kind of looking into how this is gonna impact those end of year discussions, staff recognitions, people graduating, students leaving, those kind of things. But overwhelmingly, the number one topic that was wanted to be brought up is kind of using the knowledge and expertise of the entire NIRSA membership to kind of mine some tips and tricks for transition from being that graduate assistant or being that student and going into a pro position. So we have a lot of expertise in the room, but I'm gonna stop my screen share now just so I can see everyone. Kind of want to open it up to the floor to the entire group on that first topic, which is looking into ways for us to kind of give some advice or some stories on how they're currently dealing with that work from home balance between work life and harmony or balance, however you want to phrase it. So I think looking in some of the chats that I'm getting, a lot of us are kind of more curious into how the work-life balance is really easy, because that first couple of weeks of remote work is really nice. We finally don't have to be in the office. We don't have to commute every day, and it's really great. And the allure of that has kind of faded into the first month. So kind of just asking everybody what their routines are, how has it been different over this first month, and how have you really adapted to going from office life to home as a young professional?
I can comment on mine. My name is Haley Clark. I'm from Calgary, Canada. I work at Maryland University. I live in a bachelor apartment because I'm a just recent graduate student. So I am currently sitting in a very awful setup right now with my computer on my dog crate. So I don't have a table in my apartment. I still go to work in the mornings to do our water tests. So I try to stay there as long as I can without getting kicked out. I do some work there with my 2 monitors, but it's definitely been hard without having 2 monitors doing work and getting stuff done. And being home with 2 dogs has been a little bit rough, but it's also been a little bit nice having 2 dogs to kind of keep you calm and sane during it all. But yeah, it's definitely been an interesting transition and change and getting used to.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Haley. Colin Haggerty in the chat, speaking to my soul, saying no 2 monitors is killing me. Hand up, that's me too. I've seen a lot of head nods in the NIRSA community. The second monitor life, a dream.
That was the
gone.
First thing I brought home after the first month was my second monitor.
Oh, thank you, Devin. Would you say that it's actually helped out your productivity just as much in the office?
Yeah, definitely. So I think I'm a little bit different than a lot of people in this chat, or as I found, I actually work for a local government, the city of Northport. And so we were sent home, and one thing, I went from having my 2 monitors hooked up with my laptop, extending the screen to just my laptop. So, but one thing I've done, and kind of going with Haley said about her dogs, is I've taken my dog on walk after walk after walk. So I now spend about an hour and a half doing office work, and then I get up and walk. I'm an assistant aquatic supervisor at a water park competition pool, kind of mixed together. And, you know, I'm never in my office for longer than maybe 45 minutes at a time. And now being stuck in the walls and such has been definitely a transition. The other thing is, you know, being home with my fiance, she doesn't understand, hey, babe, you're working. It's Devon, do this, do that, get the drink, turn the TV, all these things. So trying to manage that as well has been crazy. So thank you.
Awesome. So just kind of polling the rest of the group, I'm assuming most of us are finding unique ways to break up our day. Does anyone else have any ideas of how they're kind of segmenting their work from working remotely as a young pro?
I'll speak to that. I think the one thing that I've done is to just keep a schedule. That's been really important to me. So trying to keep it balanced out, or else I kind of lose track of days, right? Like in the beginning, you're like, is today Thursday? I get like that too. And so it's important for me, like, okay, at 11 o'clock, I think I'll take a lunch break and actually sit down and eat and maybe play with my dogs for, 30 minutes and then go back to work and kind of, take a walk when I feel like I'm too tired of staring at the computer screen. And so having a balance and having a schedule has really helped me keep track of what I'm doing, but also keep, sane a little bit.
Thank you for sharing that. And are you doing that through like your Outlook or Gmail, or is it just a good old pen and paper at home?
I have a planner, I have Outlook, I have Gmail, I use it all.
She's got the tools. She's ready to succeed. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else want to comment on that? Wonderful.
No.
Go ahead, Alexis. The floor is yours.
So I'm Alexis Charles. I'm currently at Washington State University as the facilities coordinator. And I think something that really helped me, was to have that schedule, but also to do yoga in the morning. I came from Valdosta State in South Georgia as a grad student almost a year ago now. And so I was really active in the yoga community there. So what's really cool about this virtual living right now is that I get to go to yoga classes from that studio that I was involved with, which is super awesome. So when they have classes on those days, I like to get up early, and it makes me feel more accountable for showing up and being somewhere, and I get to start my day off like that. So that's definitely really helpful. When I don't have meetings in the morning, it's a struggle to want to get up because I don't have to be accountable for being anywhere. So I really like putting stuff in the morning so that I have a reason to get up and start my day.
Thank you, Alexis.
So for me, so my name's Crystal and I work in competitive sports. And so I think the transition to work from home has actually kind of been better for my work-life balance because I'm not constantly going out to the fields or the courts until 11 p.m. every night because there's nothing to do. So I actually will finish work at 5 p.m. and put away the computer and be done. So it's actually kind of been nice to have a little bit less on my plate and not feel the obligation to go out and be watching staff and watching games and all of that. And so it's actually been kind of nice.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing, Crystal. If I may, Brian, can I put you on the spot to kind of flush out that idea a little bit more?
Yeah, definitely. Hey, Tom.
Hey.
I just added into the group that once 5 o'clock hits, I try to just be done, turn everything off. So that way I can keep to my schedule like some of you have already said. But additionally, not only do I have that 5 o'clock PM period time to myself, it helps me in the morning once I log in on my computer, get myself ready to go. There's things waiting for me, and it helps me jumpstart my day, make me feel more productive, that I'm getting things done, crossing things off my to-do list, which just kind of helps me get in that mode to jumpstart me into doing larger things throughout the morning and throughout the day.
Thank you, Brian. Kind of any last ideas on this this kind of work life, segmenting our work from home, tips and tricks you'd like to share with the rest of this membership?
Yeah, I'd like to hop on, please. Dom from Youngstown State University. Tom, by the way, can you say hi to Brittany Baldwin for me?
Hi, Brittany Baldwin.
All right.
No, I can do that.
I appreciate that. So I kind of am hearing everybody and I'm doing the same things. And part of my struggles early on was a sense of letting go, because I think all of us had a sense of autonomy in our programs, and now it's COVID that has a lot of autonomy in terms of how it's running our programs and calling shots for us against our better judgment. But to kind of offset that letting go component of things, essentially what I've been doing is like looking at my to-do list on a weekly basis and telling myself, all right, each day, this is the last thing I'm going to do no matter what, and then I'm going to shut my laptop off. Some of these roundtables are as late as like 5 o'clock, ending at 6 o'clock sometimes. Kind of respect that with the time zones and stuff like that. But if I know that I'm going to be ending at 6 o'clock on one day, then I'm going to start a little bit later in the day because I know I have a little bit more flexibility. Really and truthfully, I'm sticking to that schedule like Francis had mentioned, and making sure that it's absolutely everything I need to do and not overextending myself, because that's just going to add on to that stress and struggle. So just transitioning to controlling what I can control versus letting things beyond my control go.
Wonderful. Yeah, and the autonomy is really the buzzword, because I know that we've been in a lot of these Zoom discussions where it's talked about how since we have control over our schedules now, we can kind of work when we're most productive. But then all of a sudden you get that email from your director or from your higher up when they're being most productive, and it might not mesh with your time. So it's being able to navigate that. So it's kind of a perfect segue into that second topic, that work from home balance, that work-life balance is also kind of talking about, most of us are in this call are young professionals. So we're also learning how to do our jobs for the first time anyways. And now we are in an unprecedented time where no one knows what they're doing. So just kind of want to open it up to the floor to kind of anyone that wants to share their experiences with kind of how they have best kind of leaned into the situation to learn about their job, but also learn how to adapt to COVID as a young professional.
So, if I may, my name is Renati. I'm an intramural coordinator here at Curry College. I started my job February of this year, so I'm really new to it, and so I've been adjusting. I was trying to adjust to the job that I had, and now it's about adjusting to working at home, and so I'm learning both at the same time. And that also, having to get up for the 9 a.m. meetings with my, with my bosses and all that. And so it's just been, I'm not even gonna lie, it's been kind of rough. I'm not gonna lie. So it's just a lot of adjustment. So
I can probably say that you are not alone. I'm seeing a lot of head nods with your comments. So
I definitely feel that way. And I don't want to pronounce your name. Is it Renati? I definitely feel that way. So I had stepped up into this new role in January, and I had been with the organization for a while. I think on this COVID, we're going to see a major shift, and it's going to be a positive and kind of a negative in the beginning shift. Is a lot of places are going to be having people start working from home now. I mean, we have been doing our jobs, maybe not as effective as before, but we're still keeping the ball rolling with our jobs working from home. So I think this is really going to open up a lot of opportunities, especially for our younger generation who's more tech, working at home virtually, such like that there. But the best thing we can do is, like everybody's saying, is, I've been looking at SOPs. I've been helping out other young professionals with manuals I wrote, really taking that time to kind of look and say, what am I doing effectively? What am I not? Because this is going to be probably the only time we get to breathe in the next 3 years. Because as soon as we open back up, we're going to be go, 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 go. So I kind of look at it from that positive outlook, give you some time to learn, read through other job descriptions, reach out to other people. These roundtables have been awesome with networking to find other people who are in the same boat as me. And I'm like, I'm not alone on this island.
Yeah. So just kind of asking a question to the chat. Do you feel that you have more contact with your supervisor because of remote work, or do you feel that you are more distant from your supervisor during remote work? Let us know in the chat.
Devin, something interesting that you said about having time to breathe. I don't know if anybody else feels like this, so I'd love to just find out if I have some moral support here. I totally thought that going to this. I was like, oh, great, I'm going to have time to do all the projects that I was never going to get to and have time to breathe and actually only work 40 hours. That's not the case.
Yeah, summer break did not come
about
early.
anyone else. I mean, I'm in a small private institution, so we are our upper administration, I'm finding, is just wigging out about retention and enrollment, because if we don't have the bodies that are paying 50, 60,000 a year for this school, we don't have a school. So it's almost just the same but different in terms of like them saying you have to put out all this programming, you have to do all this stuff. So I almost like, I'm waiting for that time that I'm like, am I going to be able to breathe over the summer? Because it's still not here yet.
Yeah. Thank you, Laura.
Yeah, if I could just piggyback off of that. So I'm the Engagement and Partnerships Coordinator at the University of Arizona Campus Rec. And similar to some other people, I started in January. So this is my 4th month with the organization. And so for me, agreeing with your point is I feel like I'm more busy than what I was in the beginning, because not only am I trying to still learn a new position, but now I'm trying to transition it over, and I'm an engagement and outreach person who can't engage in outreach with anybody in person anymore. And so I've been really trying to be creative in how I can do that virtually. How can I engage with people and keep them involved with the university online? And what events can I do? And how can I be creative about this and spin it in a way that benefits not only our students, but our organization as well? So that added on a whole new aspect to my job that I wasn't even expecting.
Thank you for sharing that.
I think one of the greatest things that has come out of this for my team at the University of Alabama, it has been, we hosted a program assistant alumni call. So that's our student leader group. And obviously, since I've only been there for a year, it was on the other coordinator who'd been there for a few years to contact those people and reach out. But we actually had our current program assistants, our incoming program assistants, and program assistants that had been there up to 5 years ago. And so they were able to impart some advice and really just spend time with them and kind of sympathize with some of the struggles that they were going through. And it was really, it was an awesome Zoom call meeting that we had. And we walked away with advice that we're probably going to pass on to future program assistants, but we'll probably do that call consistently with incoming program assistants now. So
that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm definitely going to steal that idea.
Michael Adiamo here at Sam Houston State University. Facility coordinator, just my 3rd year in the position, 1st year dealing with any of this. So Rec Sports here is in a very unique spot because our director also doubles as our associate VP of Student Affairs. So we are mainly on the front line when it comes to brand new information. So we're constantly just changing and adapting. So nothing is constant. On top of that, our intramural director position has been vacant, and our marketing coordinator and our aquatics assistant director just left. So I'm learning a whole new program area on top of the one that I'm still mastering. So it's been a fun ride.
Thank you for sharing that, Michael. Just kind of going back through the chat function, it's pretty split between more or less. The only answer that not a lot of people selected is that the same level of communication is happening. But just kind of bringing up a couple of other questions is, do you feel that those increased communication is like more of that, like just touch point? It's that ability for you to just, like you're communicating more effectively, or is it just an increased amount of communication?
Hi, it's Tyler from Wayne State University in Detroit. For me, it's been more increased, I believe just a touch point, just to, communicate, talk, see how we're doing. And then also with everything constantly changing, we're also constantly changing. So it kind of goes back to what some of the people were saying, that trying to do more with less, essentially. Information is coming out daily. So we might plan to do something one way, and then the next day is like, oh, we got a plan to do it another way. And I'm the GA with intramurals. So it's constantly changing. So I think that's also part of the communication increasing with my direct supervisor, because we've talked at least twice a week since we've been in this lockdown in Michigan, which in real time, like if we're in the office, it's a hi, how are you doing, and every other week meeting. So It's just, I think, a lot of getting used to where we're at right now. And like I said, the constant change of, at first we were planning to do like social distancing sports and such as like tennis. And now it's like, no, we're going to do everything virtually for spring, summer. So just not knowing what tomorrow holds and having to, stay up to date and change when the times change.
Thank you for sharing that, Tyler. Anybody else want to jump in on that topic?
To piggyback off that, every day it's changing. We went from talking about sports that we could do from a distance, social distancing wise, but now where you get the rumor of, oh, students might not be back for the fall semester until January for spring semester. So now it goes from talking about social distancing sports to we're going to continue esports and try and find different programs that provide esports for for the students, and that's if they're able to partake in that. Or if academics are too much, then that they're not going to take part. So now it's just you're kind of weighing the odds, because that's how it is for me now in this semester. I tried setting up esports, and everyone is kind of freaking out about, and I say that for lack of better words, but about COVID. And so you get a smaller number of esport gamers because they're more worried about their professor emailing them back, or just information that the school may or may not be getting to them. So.
Yeah, and I think that sharing my own personal experience is that most of us on this call, we are relatively new in our positions, and some of our colleagues on campus can draw on a lot more experience in their position and try and fit it to this experience. Whereas I've never done a spring semester as a professional staff member before, and now I have to do it totally remote with no expertise and none of those collaborations. And it is difficult to plan and do those esports because the target changes 55 times a week, because I get 55 emails a week from emails I didn't even know existed, but they're in charge of everything. And you're like, oh, well, I'm almost in information fatigue, in the sense that there's so much coming in that I just can't make a decision, because why go to the lengths of putting together that program when I know that Thursday they're going to say no programming, can't do anything, don't change that. So I know that that's one thing that has been a struggle for me. I don't know if anybody else on this call has felt that or experienced it.
Yeah, the increase I've seen with my supervisor is directly tied to money. Right now everybody's in most states are in a state of emergency, and I know I commented in there about how we're having to report daily. I have to send a task list up, and then they take that document and they're billing the federal government for some, money's back, saying, hey, reimbursed us during the state of emergency. So unfortunately as well, as we all know here, hopefully there's no top admin in this call, but we understand that crap rolls downhill. So, I'm getting stuff from the supervisor that I have to relay back down to my staff. And usually it's the unpleasant stuff, this tomorrow's going to be your last day. Essentially right now we don't need you. And that's kind of where I can definitely say where some of my stress and where I'm saying, right now is a little bit calmer before the storm, is we know that when these days are thrown on us, hey, we want you guys open July 1st. They don't care how we're going to get open July 1st. We know we're going to be opening July 1st. So we just have to keep looking to the future, as well as us as young folks and understanding what's going on, setting realistic times and having those realistic discussions with our supervisors and directors and managers and such like that, of what opening looks like for each and every single one of us.
Absolutely. Yeah, I never thought I was going to get an email from the governor, but that's happened.
I'm just going to change the subject a little bit here, because I just posed a question in there earlier about people being concerned about losing their jobs because we are the younger professionals and what that looks like. So I have unfortunately lost mine. My contract ends at the end of April. So I'm done and gone. So I'm traveling 30 hours back home at the end of the month. And obviously there's not any jobs out there for me to apply for. So something that I'm doing right now in terms of preparing for when those jobs open back up is I just applied to a online program at the University of Alberta in rec management. So that's something that, as much as I know it's shitty to spend more money to get more experience right now when there's no jobs out there, just something to look at while we are all kind of looking for jobs and hoping that something's going to come up in the future, to take this time when you're quiet and not doing anything to kind of work on improving your resume and getting all that stuff out there.
Yeah, actually, Haley, it's a really good segue to kind of talk about the not so nice part of this discussion, where we have people that have the normal job stresses, and then there's the not normal job stresses of like, is my position going to be here next year? We have the additional pressures from family and everybody else that's saying like, we're working our first professional job, and like, it's not just something that I can just go home like I was a GA, where it's like, hey, school's done, go home. It's kind of really difficult to have those conversations with your loved ones, but also even more difficult where it's kind of like, all of us on this call, we do a lot of really important work for NIRSA, but we are not the decision makers. We are the decision enactors. So it's kind of being at peace with that, but also acknowledging the fact that that is stressful and that is inducing. But to your point, you took action, Haley, and you're like, you know what? I can sit here and I can wallow about it, or I can make a decision and go forward. So really, really like that, Haley. But unless there is somebody that has a burning desire to want to add on to that, I kind of want to segue into, instead of talking about how we're dealing with this, how we can kind of shift this discussion into those that we supervise. So kind of looking at graduate assistants, our student leaders, our student staff, just wanting to kind of ask the group on how you're handling that relationship. Are you doing daily check-ins? Are you communicating with your student staff? Or are you so focused on all of these decisions above that we've kind of lost sight of our student staff?
So, well, in my case, I wanted to do like weekly check-ins with my students, but at the end of the day, you kind of realize, well, after talking to them, they kind of like inform me that they get so many emails, so much stuff from the college as a whole, that it's like the conversation once a week is like a good way to let go of all of what the college is giving them, and it's a time to relax and at least talk to friends and whatnot. But at the same time, it is also like, it's as though the school is always there no matter what. It's kind of like on their backs basically. But so I don't always say, oh, we're going to talk every week, but I like to do a check-in with them and make sure that they're doing okay. I did a meeting maybe a couple weeks ago, and then last week, and the numbers went down. So it kind of just, they're more worried about schoolwork, and that's it. At least that's for my students. So I guess it's going to be different from everybody. So, yeah.
Chad, are we echoing that? We kind of are struggling to contact our students. They've got everything else in their life going on too.
This is Drew from University of California, Santa Barbara. A position where we're luckily able to pay our students. So I'm having weekly meetings with my lifeguard instructors. We aren't requiring the meetings, just kind of echoing that they have so much other stuff going on, trying to adapt to classes, trying to adapt to everything. But at the same time, we want to incentivize them to come to these courses by making it something that they can personally use. So like the next one we have is Friday, and we're going to talk about how to set up your work space remotely, and how to kind of mentally help yourself with these classes and being in the same spot, and how to kind of move from home life to work life. Later on, we're going to be doing a resume building. There's a lot of professional development type of things. So that way, that these aren't meetings that are just talking about, oh, this is what's happening with work, but how can we help you, and how can this be or how can this be helpful to you and where you want to come to these meetings.
Thank you for sharing that, Drew.
At Wayne State, we're in the same boat as what Drew just said, that we are fortunate enough to still be paying our student workers. Engagement that first week was really high. We used like WhatsApp. It was really high, and people were talking, and now it's to the point where I send a message and I might get like 1 or 2 people to respond to it. So with that, I decided to do a Zoom call tomorrow. Actually, it will be our first one, to try to re-engage with students, and also just, see how they are doing, make sure everybody's families are doing well. And then other ways that I particularly engage is just like, I play games, I play Xbox and things of that nature. So I go online, and if any of my students who I have on, their gamer tags, I'll send them a request, and we'll, go to the park and play some 2K or play Madden, and talk through the mic that way. Again, just other ways of staying engaged, because we're all kind of going stir crazy, just staying inside the house and things. But I think that it's really helpful to them, knowing that I'm still engaging with them, and also particularly that they're still getting paid and honestly not really doing anything.
Thank you, Tyler, for
As a
sharing
young
that.
professional, I really have to agree here, and it's very important that we keep our staff, if we have the ability to keep them working. At the end of this COVID, an important thing that I thought about, and every time they've talked about cutting my staff time and such, was people are really looking at what businesses, what companies, what universities, what are they doing for their employees? And that's going to be the most important part, that when we come out of this, we're going to see a lot of people are going to say, I don't want to work for you. I'll drive 20 miles somewhere else to go work, because, they paid their employees during this time. So it's very, very important there that we watch those items in there. I've been fortunate. Like I said, I work in the aquatics department. We've been able to pay our staff to do in-services 3 days a week at 3 hours a day. It's been hell to pay coming up with virtual in-services, but I'm willing to go through that stress with my team in order to keep people getting paid, because at the end of the time, we're all going through this together, and it's very important that we're there for our employees.
Thank you for sharing that.
So at Sam Houston State, we've been able to pay our students an average amount of hours. However, for informal, we have roughly 105 students in our facility staff. So we're not able to get that to everyone. So we've been kind of just sticking to Zoom, but we're taking a more realistic approach about it. Now I've been very lucky that a majority of my staff is here on campus, and they're actually constantly blowing my email up every day asking, when do we come back to work? What's going on? Is there anything going on right here? And in the Zoom meetings, I have to be real. I have to tell them, like, I know if your families and your situations, there's a possibility that some of you guys may not come back. No hard feelings. You have to do what you have to do. So we're giving them all sorts of resources. We're trying to find part-time jobs that they can apply for, such as like Instacart or HEB or Kroger, working in produce. So that way they can still make some money while they're in town. So when we do open back up, maybe if they want to come back, more power to them. We're also just kind of reminding them of all the resources they have as students, online tutoring, online library sessions, because just to kind of keep their spirits up. And I live here in Huntsville. I'm here in town, and our building is still accessible to them. But they'll come by, just chat, do a little impromptu counseling session, anything that we can do to help.
All right, so Natalie here, the facilities GA at ECU. So hopefully everyone can see the chat. I actually reached out all to my undergrad students, and I was like, hey, if you guys want to FaceTime, please let me know. We can just talk about work, we can talk about school, I can answer any questions. And so I checked in with them and asked them how school was going, because most of them are transitioning to online, and they were very overwhelmed. And so due to like the countless COVID emails and emails from their professors and these students not used to checking their email because they're so used to going to class every day, I decided that doing like little selfie videos of updates and sending it to GroupMe was faster on my end. I didn't have to worry about typing everything out, things like that. And they also could watch, a minute video and be done and feel updated. But I started creating some kind of fun online work. So they're completely optional because I know that they're overwhelmed for school, but I told them that when we do open up in the fall, I'm going to look at all the online work, see who completed it, and those people will kind of get first dibs on when they can work or shifts and the amount of hours and things like that, because everyone on my end is super easier to work and for when we open. So I did things like a bingo card with like first aid scenarios or like a fight happening on a basketball court, things like that, and how they would respond. And they would also fill out like a report. And then I just shared the Connect 2 TV activity I did. So I did an example of Meredith getting bit by a bat in the office, and I filled it out from Jim's view and had the witnesses be like Kevin and Kelly. So they get to pick whatever TV show that they want to do it on, and I sent that out to them. And we also have like a few other scavenger hunts through our EPMs and our manuals and SOPs and things that we have on Connect 2. But some of these ideas I just got from going on social media and seeing what everyone in undergrad is posting on their stories, all those bingo cards. And then also I asked them, I was like, if I give you online work, what's going to make you want to do it? Like, what do you want to do? And they're like, we want it to relate to work, but we also want it a little fun. So
that's a really creative solution for the Connect 2. I would be very interested to see that accident report. Bite.
It's Sylvain here from Penn State. So I've been just continuing to have Zoom meetings with my students, and we're into our 4th week of our weekly Zoom meetings on Wednesdays and Fridays. And I get about at first I was getting about 60 people showing up, and now we're probably down to about 40 people showing up. And everyone knows it's happening every week, so they just know to click the same Zoom link all the time. And we pretty much just talk about anything related to and officiating and pretty much campus work as a whole. And that's been going well. And I originally just scheduled to have it for the first 2 weeks. And after asking if they wanted to keep it going, everyone was on page. So we're just going to keep it going to the end of April and kind of reevaluate and see what comes of it. I'm also kind of find a different way to keep them engaged, and I'm looking into, we created a bracket of different places around State College, and pretty much every week, every other day, we're gonna vote on what location should move to the next one, and pretty much create our own March Madness bracket in that way to kind of keep them engaged and having fun with each other. But we're just kind of finding ways to keep them engaged and finding ways just every week just to see faces. Whether they actually participate in those meetings is just a good way to kind of get themselves away from the books and to see familiar faces they haven't seen in a while.
Thank you for sharing that. And just to kind of phrase the question almost in a different way, obviously we've kind of touched on it a little bit. Some of it is just to kind of have that social interaction, but the other part of it is we're trying to engage the students so that if and when we can start back up, we have a staff, so that doesn't delay the start even more. Retaining the staff is challenging. I know that I live in the world of competitive sports, so keeping officials engaged is a lot different than keeping a staff of lifeguards engaged or facility supervisors. And so it's challenging trying to make sure that we can make sure that all student needs are met. There's not really a one size fits all approach. But the biggest thing is like Greg had a really great comment earlier in the sense of if the students don't see the value in this, they're going to just kind of piece. And unfortunately right now, a lot of schools have hiring freezes or we can't even promote a position. So every student we lose is doubly impactful because we can't replace that student. Or once they're kind of off of our radar, it's difficult for us to really kind of replace those ranks. So any other engagement ideas or how we're keeping in touch with our GA or student leaders or even retention ideas for our officials going forward before we switch to our last topic?
Shayna Kessler, Central Washington. For us, one thing that I've been doing with my staff, and I oversee intramurals, so we have our group chat going still. I've made a point to be very transparent with them that I'm not looking to bombard them with emails. If I do need to send them an email with official documents or announcements, I will let them know in the group chat to go and check their email, which they've been really receptive to since they are already so overwhelmed with what's happening. But we're on the quarter system. Our classes just started 2 weeks ago. So we had our first staff meeting this week, and the first thing we talked about was that their self-care and their personhood comes first, their student success comes second, and then their ability to do work or anything else comes third. So if this needs to not be a priority right now, that's okay. And to acknowledge that on the front end, that this might be a really hard time for them or a really different time for them. And that each of them is gonna have their own unique needs and interests with how they wanna move forward is completely valid and okay. So I've had a handful of those staff who have said, you know, I definitely want to come back in the fall, but I'm overwhelmed with my online classes and it's really hard for me to stick to a routine, so I don't want to work right now. I'm like, that's great. I appreciate you being honest with me. As long as I know how I can support them, I'm able to kind of cater to what they need. I let them stay in the group chat if that's what they choose to do. If they want to be removed from the group chat so it's not a distraction to them, they have that option. But really kind of laying it out there that they need to prioritize their needs. And as long as we can be honest with each other about what that is, we can be successful together.
Yeah, meeting the students where they're at is a fantastic strategy. And I think it's a really good way to kind of segue into our last topic, which is kind of leaning on some of our more experienced staff on this call, opening the floor up to you to kind of share some of those tips and tricks of how you would give advice to some of us younger members on the call and that transition period, because obviously a lot of us on this call might be at the end of our first year or end of our second year, and normal life has kind of stopped. So this roundtable wouldn't have happened if COVID-19 didn't happen. So now we have a chance to really share a lot of really good advice. So let's take advantage of it in the sense that kind of reaching out to those more experienced members on this call to share your tips and tricks to ease that transition from student position to being a pro.
I'll go again if nobody else wants to talk.
Go for it, Shayna.
So I am, I've been working in rec as a professional for 5 years now. It's my first year at Central Washington. One thing that I definitely want to let you all know, whether you're a GA, an intern, a new entry-level person, or in your first or second year, if you don't know if you have job security, that's one of the scariest things that can be happening right now. It's a lot of us are going kind of week to week, day to day. Like, we don't know what's going to come out of the next Board of Trustees meeting. One of the best things you can do for your own self-care in a time like this is ask your supervisor if they know what's going to be on the Board of Trustees agenda. Is the subject of furloughs coming up with higher administration? If you don't ask, you're not giving yourself a chance to know the answer. And there's no point in stressing about it when you can just do yourself that favor and ask that question.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I was worried about furloughs in the beginning. You know, kind of going off what Shayna was saying there, I think this COVID has shown how important Parks and Rec is to the communities that we serve. And I think we're going to see us stop getting looked at that department as, oh, that's always the first people we cut. You know, those are the things when we're the ones who, you know, nobody can provide the services like the people that are on this call right now. And I really think, you know, documenting that you've gone to all these roundtables and webinars and such like that, showing that you're wanting to increase your professional development for the betterment of whatever department, university you're working for, is huge right now. The other thing for Shayna, and a couple of my staff have done this, is in my division of my department, there's 2 essential people, myself and my supervisor. You know, we've been told, hey, no matter what, you guys are going to continue working. You know, now we don't go back to our staff and say, you know what, we're going to continue working, no big deal. But we have those honest conversations with our staff. As long as I can keep you working, you have my promise that if you want to work, you will continue working. The minute that they say, you know, we have to make cuts, just understand that those cuts will happen, whether it's a furlough, whether it's a layoff. You know, everywhere is different, but that's where we have a meeting tomorrow with our department to have that honest discussion. You know, this every other week crap has to stop. It was fine the beginning of March. We're now going into May. You know, there's a lot of people's lives that are affected by this, as well as, you know, getting back down there with your staff to that personal level and letting them know, you know, this has affected everybody across the board and on multiple levels, professionally, personally, and such like that. But I think those honest conversations, with the staff, not only make yourself a better leader, but they also allow that staff underneath you. Once again, if you have to furlough, those people are going to be the ones who are definitely showing back up to work back for you, because they're going to say that person cared about me.
I definitely think one thing is, and it's kind of old fashioned, but don't be afraid to ask questions, depending on the situation. I know for my first year at Sam Houston State, Hurricane Harvey was right around the corner. And so I was already just like lost and just asking questions left and right. And thankfully, I had an experienced supervisor that kind of knew what to do. And then the other thing is also like kind of piggybacking on it is that, in terms of this is a whole new experience. So no one's experts. Our supervisors are learning just as much as we are. I think one thing I had to remind myself when all this COVID-19 stuff started was that, this is something that's brand new. So I was kind of getting frustrated with, there's no plan, there's no order, everything keeps changing, but I have to remind myself, they're tackling this just as much as I am. It's a new experience for them as well.
Absolutely, Michael. I don't think too many institutions went and dusted off their pandemic risk management guide that everyone has obviously already completed. So we're all learning.
Yeah. To add on to what everyone else just said, my advice to young professionals, as a young professional myself, is make sure you network outside of your region, because typically schools in your region are kind of doing similar things. I started in Region 1 as a student and went to Region 5 for like 7 months for an internship. And then now I'm spending some time in Region 3, but like I have contacts in 3 regions now. And at the time, I still had only contacts in those regions. But since then, I have had colleagues move to Region 5 or Region 2. And so getting a wealth of information from other institutions from other regions was a big help for me. And definitely with these roundtables, you're able to see like hundreds of us all in one. And so if someone in specific has a good tidbit that you wanted to either elaborate on or say, hey, thank you for that little line that you stated in the roundtable yesterday, that makes a connection right there. And as far as I know, being in NIRSA and being in collegiate recreation higher ed in general, professionals want to help professionals. And so if you're willing to put the work forward, there's going to be someone along the lines that's like, okay, yes, I'm going to help this person. I haven't come across any professionals that are like, oh, nope, I have too much time to disperse other places, I can't help you. They're either going to help you or lead you in the right direction. So make sure that you are still keeping on to your networks.
Just to add up on that, I think this is the perfect time with all these uncertainties to kind of keep building your bank of what to do next, right? With everyone coming in these chats all the time, you can have 5 different programming ideas that you might not use just by asking. And I think it's a good thing to just kind of start building those ideas of what if we are fully remote for the fall semester? If I collect all this information from everyone, you don't have to start anything from nothing. Just ask around and people are willing to share those ideas with you. And just with yourself, also be willing to share those ideas with the next person. But I think this is the perfect time for us to just start building these different libraries of whatever programming we might not have thought we were going to program, and just start having them in our pocket in case tomorrow you're asked to start something fresh the next day. You'll have something ready. And if we're building all these, it makes us a little more secure in our positions. If you're able to engage students and at the end you could prove that you've had this 400 students who are engaged during this time because of your program, you're probably someone that has a secure position at your institution. But I think it's just a perfect time for us to just keep building these banks and these libraries so we have all these programs in our pocket, and whenever our supervisor comes to us, we can prove to our supervisors we're ready to do whatever's asked of us.
Yeah, I want to piggyback off of Sylvan. I totally agree. Like, digging those banks, not only in our network, but for some of you guys that are GAs, like you have programs and different things that you're a part of that translate over. Like we talk to our undergrads and everything about how to bring in those transferable skills, those transferable things that set you apart. Like introduce those into the bank as well, just to show that you are being a forward thinker and being innovative in those areas, so that once we do hit the ground running, no matter what we're having, what our falls look like, or even our summers look like, you're able to pull from those resources and say like, hey, not only did I like pull from NIRSA and my entire network there, but I also pulled from like my grad studies and what we were doing there and how that translated over. And I like did maybe some like discussions with like other colleagues and classmates that are target audiences to make sure that you are remaining relevant, because very similar to what like Devon said, like our field is relevant. Like there's not a lot of people that are going to be able to do and bring to the table what we do. And they're seeing that now. They're seeing how important it is. So just make sure like you know that in yourself and hold confident to the fact that, hey, it matters. What we're doing matters, and move forward with that confidence.
Absolutely. And before I open the floor up to Matt, I just want to say we want to be conscious of the time. We do have only a couple of minutes left. So know that a lot of people have next meetings to run to. So if you are interested in potentially seeing this roundtable again, go ahead and throw that in the chat. Also give us some topics. But kind of for our last say before I go into that spiel, I'd like to turn the floor over to Matt. Take it away.
Sure. So I'm a first year professional from Boston College. And just knowing that everyone who's said something so far in this chat clearly wants to mingle with other people. So I know I put my email, every single one of these that I've been in, I put my email in the chat and haven't gotten one email back, which is fine. Like, I don't mind, but knowing that we're all here to connect. I know, like, our shout out to our 2018 Region 3 Student Lead On Committee. We have a little mini social that we're doing on Saturday. But like, we're still staying in contact, and we still stay in contact consistently with each other. So just keeping in contact with all those people, making these extra connections, and doing all those things, it's super important.
Thank you, Matt. It's a perfect segue into kind of our end, because if this is something that is of interest to other people, we'd love to potentially offer this discussion again. It seems that we have a lot of really great ideas out there, but unfortunately we've kind of reached the end of our time for today. I have a couple of things to just plug for NIRSA. All of us are really loving these Zoom roundtables, but NIRSA is also rolling out the virtual Bluefish job fair next week. So there's a lot of really good sessions. It is free for members. NIRSA Smartboard just dropped the link in there for the Career Development Week. It's free to all of the members, but it's only $30 for non-members. So think about those students that if they're fortunate enough to be able to potentially pay that, there's a lot of really good content all day, every day of next week. Like and subscribe to NIRSA on YouTube. These videos will be posted online, so you can come back and watch this again and get something that you might have missed the first time. But that's all I have for you all today. And as we said at NIRSA, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay on this Zoom call. We're kicking you all out. Later, everyone.
This was great, Tom. Good job.
Thanks, Shayna.
Bye, Tom.
Bye, everyone.